Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Happy Friday, Lock Shop. What is up? Dustin Nielsen and Andrew Hustler Patterson with you once again. Lock Shop brought to you by our friends at Coolbet. Sign up for an account today. Enter the bonus code LOCKSHOP, all one word. You'll get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. Huss, what's up, buddy?
Well, a little bit of a late night watching you open hockey cards last night, Dustin. Full disclosure, the Lock Shop's been humming, but the crack pack is on fire this week with the release of the Upper Deck. So, fun night last night, and finished it off with an hour and a half of watching you open 6 boxes of Upper Deck Series 1. Now, I know we've thrown out some nerd blasts on your show as of late, but we got to own this one, I think.
I think we do. You're right. And you know what's the best part is that my wife and my children are upstairs right now at the kitchen table shipping cards, like packing up cards for shipping. I get them all in their proper top loaders, and then I tape them and label the name, and then I take it upstairs and I leave it in the morning when I go to work. And they look, and there must have been a stack of cards about 2 feet high today, 30 envelopes, all the labels, and they just got their own system up there right now. So it's a Nielsen family affair, buddy. What can I say?
You're a genius. You've somehow turned slave labor into a fun activity for the family. And well, I'll bet your little guy, Marshall, must be loving it because he gets to see all these cards. I mean,
he's loving it, but he called me out yesterday. Because we have a rule around the house. The kids have 2 jobs. Marshall's in charge of recycling in the office here, which is busy right now with the crack pack. And Elizabeth's job is to unplug my phone cord when we wrestle in the wrestling room so she doesn't hurt her head on it. And they each get like $2 a week if they do their jobs. So I come home yesterday after they've been putting some cards together for shipping, and Marshall comes over. He goes, "Hey, Daddy, you need to pay us more. This is a new job." I'm like, my God, calm down, man. You're 6. So there's labor negotiations going on in the household right now, buddy.
Oh my God! You know what? The union, they're going to break you.
They're going to unionize. Well, I hope they, if they want to. My dad is like a union rep, so they could just go straight to Papa and he'll hook them up. And that's the last thing I need is to get engaged in that battle. So we'll see how it plays out.
One other thing I should mention, especially for the Winnipeg folks, or people maybe aren't regular listeners of your morning show, Charch is back, and these chin strap pictures, the one of the dude with the white belt in Mexico earlier today that you dropped, I mean that could be a 10 out of 10. And then every time you guys talk about this or I hear it, I just keep thinking about the fact that you sported a chin strap at your own wedding. I mean, it's such a power move.
Hey, it works. Right, she's still here. She's still here. We've had relations twice, ended up in a boy and a girl, but she's still here, so that's nice. We got some Friday NHL sprinkles we're going to get to. Huss is all over the Brier. Chris Abbott's going to pop by as well. You can follow us on Twitter at Lockshop Bets, and of course, subscribe to the Lock Shop on all your podcasting platforms. Quick update at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Rory, who was one of my picks, had a great day yesterday. He was 7 under. He's just about to get rolling here, according to my leaderboard. Vic Hovland's had a nice day. He was 6 under today. He's at 9 under for the tournament. A little bit of a slow start today for Zalatoris, but Keith Mitchell was 2 under through 3 today as Killer Keith tries to make a move on day 2. But Huss, tough one for you. Day doesn't even end up teeing off yesterday, but your early thoughts on the Arnold Palmer.
Well, you know what? I mean, listen, and I think it was my buddy Feinberg says every time he gets on Vic Hovland thinking that he's going to play like young Rory goes and starts playing like young Rory. And that's exactly what it was yesterday. I mean, Rory McIlroy was unbelievable with that 7 under par 65 to get things going. Although it does look like he's bogeyed the first hole. So he's at 6 under right now. And Vic's there. Tyrrell Hatton's been really good so far today. I guess he's finished now at 4 under. And man, Billy Ho. I was on Billy Ho last week. Consider taking him. He's another guy that has just been consistently in the mix. But I mean, listen, there's a lot of golf left to be played. We'll see how things shake out after this round. I mean, Will Zalatoris should be, hopefully he can get back up and get into that, sort of top 5 area along with those guys that we mentioned. And as far as Hideki goes, he's right on the cut line. He's just starting out right now. So we'll see how it goes. But as I said, I'd rather be doing well on Sunday than on Friday, because as we've seen, there's been many a close call lately in the lock shop with some of these golf picks. But hey, it should be a good tournament. I mean, we're finding new ways to occupy ourselves on Sundays now without the National Football League. So
it's being disappointed by golf.
So, exactly.
As opposed to being disappointed by football. So it's all still good. All right, let's get into our NHL picks for tonight. Then we'll get into some curling, and then Chris Abbott will pop by to talk a little curling and some NHL, obviously, as well. Huss, where are you going, buddy? I see you got a, plus 648. That's a great parlay.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're starting it off with an underdog, a home dog, and it's CBJ. And by the way, shout out to the Blue Jackets. The lock of the century of the week came through. And as we mentioned, Patrick Laine got the 20th goal as well. There was much celebration on Winnipeg Sports Talk on Wednesday. And listen, I know there's a ton of people that were listening to the lock shop that got on that number. That has to be the worst line that Coolbeck gave out all year long. And I don't often throw out the free money line, but Patrick Laine scores 20 goals in his sleep. And that's exactly what we said in the summer, and it came through.
That was the one. The other free money line was Chikrin under 19.5. I can't believe they gave us that. And just quickly on that Columbus play on Tuesday, I texted you. I said, buddy, I'm in heavy on your, I was in pretty heavy on it. And they were down 1-0 early and outshot 11-2. And I'm pacing around the house being like, oh my God, come on. This is the lock of the century of the week. And then they got things under control a little bit. But I had a first period sweat going in that game. But Blue Jackets came through, so you go back to them.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to them, the Kings are in the midst of a long road trip. I mean, they just got worked at home by the Boston Bruins at a tough win and tough loss against the Dallas Stars. And I just really think that Columbus right now is playing with, listen, they know that they're not going to the playoffs right now, but first of all, they got one of the hottest players in the league in Patrick Laine. And, we're sort of really coming together under a new head coach and, playing to, continue this run going into next season. The Kings, for that matter, have had a great year, but I still sort of think they're a little overvalued. I'm very surprised that they are where they are right now, and we'll see where they end up at the end. But, the fact that the Kings are laying minus 150 or minus 149 as a road favorite, considering the way they played the last couple games, I'm not in on it. So I'm starting this thing off with the Blue Jackets. I'll bet this thing by itself. It was plus 128 last night. It's now plus 127. So essentially the same number. So we'll start it off with a money line play on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then we're going to go to the Carolina Hurricanes, who are home, a slight favorite at minus 132 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, the Penguins looked pretty darn good last night, beating the Tampa Bay Lightning 5-1 in that game. But listen, it's very difficult to go in on the road and back-to-back nights beat the Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes. So I just think this is a great spot. I got a lot of time for what Pittsburgh is doing right now. I think they're going to be a tough outcome playoff time. And listen, if they can go in and go back-to-back and sweep Tampa and Carolina, they will deserve it. I don't think it's happening, though. I like Carolina in this game, and I like the number. I mean, just considering it's back-to-back nights, and Carolina should be a favorite in this game anyways, I think we're getting some nice value at only minus 132 right now for the Hurricanes. And then, final game, we're going to go to the Jets. Now, I often will stay away from the Jets, but this is essentially their season right now. Yes, they came out and they beat the Arizona Coyotes with a third period comeback, and the game on Tuesday between the Habs and Jets was absolutely bananas. By the way, as much as I did a victory lap for the Columbus pick, the over in that, the under in that game, that's right up there for worst lock shot pick of the entire year. It was 4-0, 6 minutes into the game. And then the Jets just let the Habs right back in. It was 4-3 at the end of the first intermission. The over had already cashed in 20 minutes. So I took an L on that one, but the Jets got the W. And I mean, to me, this is their season. It is on the line. They have to beat the Dallas Stars. They've got to make up ground. They need to do it in regulation, for that matter. And they do get a nice boost with Nikolai Ehlers coming back. Andrew Kopp came back into the lineup on Tuesday, was a big contributor. And Ehlers is going to be playing with Kopp and Lowry at least to start. So this game's basically a pick 'em right now. I'm seeing Jets minus 110, Dallas minus 106. These two teams have played recently, both games going to overtime. And I know my buddy Max, who's I'm not sure whether he's listening right now, but a Lock Shop regular, was throwing out trying to get the bet the game to go to overtime. And Tyler Seguin, who seems to have a goal every time he plays the Winnipeg Jets, just against nobody else, 10-1 for Seguin to score in the game to go to overtime. I'm just rolling with the money line though. Jets at -110. So we're going to put those three together. We'll play them separately, but yeah, plus 648 on that money line parlay. Be a nice little way to get the weekend going if we could catch that one.
You're telling me that'd be a great way to get the weekend going. I've got, interesting. I didn't love today, but there's a couple games I like. I've been monitoring. I'm trying to figure out if it's been announced yet. If Shesterkin's starting, I see at Daily Faceoff he's listed as unconfirmed. But if Shesterkin starts tonight, I love the Rangers -156 at home against the New Jersey Devils. Obviously, I mean it's a rivalry game between these two clubs. The Devils coming off that loss to Columbus as well. Before that, they put up 7 on Vancouver, but before that, they gave up 8 against Chicago. Before that, they scored 6 against Pittsburgh. Before that, they allowed 6 against Tampa. So, I mean, you've had at least 6 goals scored in, I think, 7 of the last 10 New Jersey Devils games. If you're going to be going up against Shesterkin and you allow the New York Rangers to score 3 goals, you're done. I mean, that guy is absolutely lights out. So if Shesterkin is confirmed as the starter here, Rangers -156 tonight. I'm going to go Minnesota in regulation -118 on the road against the Buffalo Sabres. And then I haven't learned my lesson here. I'm going back against Detroit again. Tampa Bay, to get any value here, you pretty much have to go -1.5. Detroit crushed me earlier in the week. There's no way they crushed me again in back-to-back games against Carolina and Tampa. So I'm going to go Tampa -1.5 here as they stick it to old Stevie Yzerman.
Bounce back game for the Lightning after that 5-1 loss last night to Pittsburgh. It'll be interesting. And you know what? Steve Yzerman and his Red Wings, they truly have become your nemesis. Over the course of the year plus we've been doing the Lock Shop, I mean, if there's a most wanted list from the Nielsen side of things, it has to be Stevie.
How's that possible? Like, how have I somehow found a rivalry with a team that's been as bad as the Red Wings have been? It makes no sense to me, Huss. None at all whatsoever.
They only win when you pick against them. So we'll test
pretty much
the theory out again tonight and see if the Lightning can get back in the win column. I'm sure they'll be somewhat snarly. John Cooper got booted from the game last night.
Yes, he's fired up.
The full March Madness basketball style ejection from the bench. So I do expect them to be a lot better, and might not be a great time for Detroit to be going again to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning, even though the Lightning did play last night.
I think earlier meeting this year was 7-6 in favor of Tampa, so we'll see how that works out. All right, so there's our Friday plays in the National Hockey League. Let's head over to the Brier, where Huss has you covered here every single episode during the Brier on the Lock Shop, and then Chris Abbott is going to slide in here as well to talk some curling. But Huss, take us through. You got a couple of individual plays, and then you guys put together a curling boosted parlay here as well.
Yeah, well, and listen, we'll talk about this with Chris in just a second. But I mean, as we do this right around lunch hour on Friday, you still do have about 7 hours to get in your bets for the Brier overall. And last week, of course, Dusty, I kind of gave out my plays, with Brad Jacobs. That Jacobs number that we got at plus 330 last week is now down to plus 275. I think a lot of the things that we talked about with people sort of realizing that this challenge for Brad Gushue is really going to be tough considering what they've been through. They just got to Lethbridge yesterday. So there has been a little bit of movement. If you got on those numbers with us last week, the timing was everything. We certainly got better numbers, but all of those bets are up. We'll talk to Chris about some of the other offerings for the Brier overall. But going into tonight's draw number 1, a couple games that I like. And, we talked last week about Kevin Cooey. I'm on him to win his group. And I also think that he comes out and makes a statement in the feature game tonight. I mean, he's a money line favorite of minus 556. But the rock line here is 2.5. And I just can really see Cooey kind of making a statement, announcing that they are there as as Team Alberta, playing in front of the home fans and giving it to Saskatchewan. So, I mean, I'd love it if it was minus 1.5. And let's just see if you do. Oh, no, it's just 2.5 there. So anyways, minus 109. And we'll get that into our parlay a little bit later on. And then the other really interesting matchup is Glenn Howard's squad. Our buddy Glenn Howard, who was so kind to us, entertaining myself and Chris back at the Olympic trials. His team won Ontario. They're a plus 115 underdog against Botcher. Now, Botcher's fascinating. 4 straight trips to the final. Finally got the win last year. And then it's been a miserable year. I mean, they had the very public breakup with Darren Moulding, who's now playing with New Brunswick. And it's surprising to see them so far down the odds boards. That being said, I like them to win this game. I mean, I think this is their year right now for the Botcher rank. And they've been incredible at the Brier over the last few years. So minus 147 money line for Botcher over Ontario. I'm playing both of those, and those 2 games are going to figure into the curling parlay, although we're going to talk about the Botcher line on the Rock line when we get Chris in here.
All right, so we're ready to bring in Chris Abbott. You want to dive in there, Huss? We'll slide in with Chris Abbott.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Let's bring in Chris. Where's Chris?
And by the way, folks, as Chris comes in here, we did do an extended Brier chat with the Cool Bet boys, Pat Gregoire and Jake Boland-Moss, myself and Chris yesterday. So that is up at all the Cool Bet socials. So you can check that out if you want to go over it maybe a little bit more in depth before placing bets for the entire Brier, and then getting ready for the first stones to be thrown this evening.
Chris was obviously on a business meeting today, because look at him. He's in like a fancy golf shirt and stuff. Chris, you making deals today, buddy, or what?
I'm trying to. And now
are you in a meeting right now?
I'm trying to do the calculation on the parlay as we speak. Yeah. How's plus 500? Yeah, let's do that.
How's that sound? Plus 500?
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'll get in on that. That's not a problem. We'll take that one. Chris, what's up, buddy?
Sorry, boys. It's an absolute cluster here today. This has been one of the busiest weeks of my life, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. For as you know, there's a whole lot going on with gaming here in Ontario, right? We're about a month out from the full-on regulated market, and so there's a lot to go on with that. And then, yeah, it's been busy. I could work for a living, so I mean, I'm not complaining about that. But just a whole lot of stuff going on. But yeah,
I thought you were just finding new ways to spend all that cash you won in Vegas last week with that crazy hit in the progressive.
About time, right? Been telling people all week that I caught the dragon. I don't know what to do now. Like, betting is not even fun I don't even enjoy it anymore. I might try and get a job at an accounting firm or something. Like, I don't know what. But it was great. It's not like I haven't lost that over the years. I'm sure, but it was nice to get that little boost for sure. And I mean, I've never won anything in my life. Like, any of the most I won before that was actually in the last trip, where I was pumped about winning. I think it was $4,000, which was another progressive on the exact same game, Mississippi Stud. So I guess maybe I'm just like a really good Mississippi Stud player.
I was gonna say your new nickname is Mississippi Stud. It's that simple.
Yeah, I am.
Let's go to the Mississippi Stud. Chris Abbott.
Yeah.
Chris, you mentioned we're gonna get to some curling stuff in a second, but you did mention a lot going in Ontario right now. A lot of stuff to go through there. Maybe not full blown behind the scenes, but like, what are people going to notice and what's the date again in Ontario, and how does it trickle down across the rest of the country? Like, how's this working? For like, Huss is in Manitoba, I'm in Alberta, you're in Ontario. So what happens over the next few months, I guess?
Yeah, well, for Coolbet and for most of our competitors that are already in Canada, nothing's going to change that you'll notice. You won't notice anything. So in Ontario, though, we'll be operating under it'll be coolbet.ca instead of coolbet.com. There's more restrictions placed by the Ontario government in terms of kind of things we can offer, like the Coolbet League that we had for the NFL, where you get you're not allowed to offer a free to play with a cash prize. So you're not allowed to do that. So little stuff like that, different advertising, regulatory things. But for the general product at Coolbet, even people in Ontario, they really won't notice much of a difference. Your account will still stay the same. You might, I think one thing that people in Ontario have to do is just confirm their address. And that's just, another regulatory thing. But other than that, I mean, people in Ontario are going to notice a lot of United States, kind of the big players coming into the market. Your MGM, your Caesars, your PointsBets, your DraftKings, FanDuel. So there's going to be just a glut of advertising and options in the marketplace in Ontario. Those companies won't be operating outside of Ontario because they're fully on the regulated side of what's going on. Now, so are we in Ontario, but there's no regulation outside of it. So, we're still, as far as we know, able to operate with the same licenses we have, the international licenses we have in the rest of Canada. So that's just basically how it's going to look. I mean, it changes by the day, but from what I can tell right now, there's not going to be, especially for users outside of Ontario, there shouldn't be much of a difference.
Good to know. I'm always curious about that. I just want more information all the time. Like on the radio side of stuff, a lot of people are talking about it from a business perspective, and especially out in Ontario, how you mentioned a lot of companies coming in with a bunch of advertising money, and how it could. I had somebody describe it to me that say it's going to save sports radio in the country because so many companies are going to be trying. First of all, I'm like, well, it's too late for about half of sports radio in the country, so that's great news. And then it's so different because from province to province, it's different as well. So I really like to understand all of it better, but I think you kind of gave a lot of us a good summary there.
Yeah, I mean, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, from what I understand, are status quo with the monopolies, for the regulated market. Alberta is experimenting by, I believe, letting in 2 regulated operators.
I heard something about that, yeah.
And they're giving out a bunch of licenses for sports betting to casinos and the professional teams, but that's still. I don't know. They're going about it a totally different way than most jurisdictions. So I don't know if we've talked about it on the air before, but Coolbet as a product is kind of a supplier side thing in the United States. So we're not branded as Coolbet there, but we do power some sports books. And there's the regulatory framework in most of the states that we've had to go through is quite similar to what Ontario has done. Ontario has taken best practices and pretty much adapted them and applied them to the Ontario market. So a lot of operators, and then by extension, the technical suppliers, everyone has to get approved under iGaming Ontario. Alberta is doing it a little bit differently, and there's some head scratching going on. It seems that they're trying to carve their own path and how they handle this. So it remains to be seen how that plays out from a regulatory side, but.
Totally surprises me.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting industry. If anyone ever wants to chat industry, is certainly happy to talk about that too. I know we always talk about our picks and blah, 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 but just in terms of being on the operator side of it, there's a whole lot of things we have to translate our site to make it, just little stuff more Ontario focused. So there'd be a separate, mirrored site for Ontario as opposed to outside and just all that kind of stuff that takes up time.
What's the best here, Huss, is that Chris is actually on that work meeting, and this is what he's saying at the meeting. We just managed to work our questions in at the exact same time, so it's worked out perfectly.
Yeah, that's right.
We're just basically listening in on everything that's going on at Coolbet HQ. Well, hey, listen, getting to the weekend, and we're going to get to this the boosted partner parlay in just a second, but maybe just fill people in on what is going on for the Brier at Coolbet, because Hot Dog and the boys have really cranked up the offerings, both for the entire tournament as well as draw by draw.
And we're getting noticed. The sport of curling is made for betting. It's made for TV. And honestly, it's overdue for having, more markets than Moneyline Spread Total, which we now have. There'll be live betting available for the TV featured game as we've had for the last number of events. There's a ton of futures. Day-to-day specials, the grand salamis and whatnot. So, Matt's got a ton of markets up. He's completely plugged in, and it's really exciting, actually, to the point where I'm like, man, I wish I could play, but it's really exciting what's going on there, and we are the leader when it comes to curling betting. I've talked about it before. Other sites rip our lines off, and that's normal. That's practice throughout the industry.
It goes back and forth, right? Like, is that how it works?
Yeah, for sure. But we're proud to be the ones setting the lines for curling. We're setting the lines for the National Lacrosse League. We were setting the lines for the CFL when they were completely off earlier this year, Dusty, when You were going on your tier. So it's it's cool, man. It's really fun to be in that leadership position. We take a lot of pride in that, and curling has been the jewel. We've gotten so much positive feedback. We did a great partnership with Kevin Martin's podcast throughout the Olympics. And those guys are really spotlighting the betting aspect of curling. So it was all pretty cool.
As far as tonight goes, and we'll get to the draw, but we do have the curling version of the Grand Salami. Total points over under 50.5 in the evening draw. And the one, Chris, that you talked about that I think I might be with you on the over is the number of blank ends tonight at 7.5. At this level, you see a lot of early blanks. And just the fact of the matter is, guys, going for those twos, they're so important. Keeping the hammer will be key, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if that number continues to be maybe higher than 7.5 on most draws throughout the event.
I think so too, especially early in these events. If you watch curling tournaments, the first end in almost every game, unless there's a mistake and somebody sees the opportunity to capitalize for two, it's up and down the sheet. Let's get used to the ice. Let's get the rust off here, and more often than not ends up in a blank. So there's 4 games. What'd you say the number was? 7.5. So two blanks per game. Oh man, sign me up for that. I might ship the Mississippi Stud money on that one.
It's a nickname when you start to refer yourself as Mississippi Stud. I mean, it's just perfect. Industry talk, Mississippi Stud. It's great. Haas, you want to get into that parlay there? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of, unloaded the 2 picks that I liked for the draw, which was a Cooey with the rock line at -2.5, and the Botcher, which is Team Canada, by the way, money line. But Chris, we're gonna take the Botcher rink to win by 2, and add Matt Dunstone's team on the money line, and get that thing to right around 4-1. And what do you say? Sugar Daddy's going to boost it to 5-1 for the lock shop.
5-1. It is live right now. Botcher -1.5, Cooey -2.5, Dunstone money line. So that's live at 5-1 right now.
Love it. So getting some great value at the and a great way to start off the Brier. What would be even better is if we could pull a 5-1 winner for everyone, and then have a nice cushion to get into the action. Because I mean, of course, there's with these expanded fields, there is so much curling that's going to be happening over the course of these next 5-6 days before we get to the playoffs. So sure would be nice to get back in the win column with a boosted partner parlay here on the Lock Shop.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit overdue, aren't we? Although we had a couple weeks ago with the Kopitar point.
Hit that Kopitar hockey one a couple weeks ago, that's not too bad. We'll have another hockey one next week. Chris, we'll let you get back to work, buddy. Thanks for the boost on that curling parlay, and we'll talk to you next week.
Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, boys. And Hustler, I'm sure we'll be talking curling betting every day.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon.
You guys and your curling. I like following along on it with you. I mean, I'll be on Cooey. Botcher's a U of A grad, so I'm always on Botcher. I presented that guy. It was always, I don't know if I told you, like, I'd go host the U of A awards, being like the voice of like the hockey and football team. And it was always like athlete of the year, Brendan Botcher, curling. Because he would dominate in like Canada West curling, right? So you saw him basically from when he was like 18 to where he is now. So, but yeah, weird though, because you're right. They haven't been doing well this year, but they've obviously been pretty good at the Brier over the last little while. So there, I updated it. It's boosted to plus 500. I wanted to bring that Brier thing back up. So, 5-1 would be a nice way to kind of put a little bit of cushion into the old Brier betting to start the event.
Yeah, and again, folks, if you want to check last week's Lock Shop last Friday and kind of went through a number of the picks for the entire event, but do like Jacobs to win the whole thing and Jacobs to win his group, Cooey to win his group. I think, the numbers have come down a little bit. We're moving these curling lines here on the Lock Shop, Dusty.
Yeah.
But I think there's still value if you want to get in on that. And of course, first draw goes tonight. Manitobans will get going tomorrow in the first draw, and it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. I mean, much like Chris and I, when we were in Saskatoon for the Olympic trials, sort of eased into the event, much like the teams do, I think, kind of checking out the ice, see who's playing well, and then hit it pretty hard when we get to the coming through the weekend. So anyways, it should be a lot of fun. We had a great time following the Scotties, and I don't think it'll be any different for the Brier, which gets going tonight in Lethbridge. How far is Lethbridge from where you're at?
I can do it in 4.5-ish, a little bit less.
Oh, that's right. So I guess it's south of Calgary?
It's south of Calgary by about an hour and 40 minutes. So yeah, you can do it. You can do it in 4.5. And I've done it. I mean, I went to college in Lethbridge. I lived there for like 5 years total. I got all my buddies are down there. They're going to be having a great time. Would have been a nice little trip, but I'm too damn busy. So I can't go.
You maybe pop down and spend an evening or two in the Brier patch.
That would be pretty fun. They hosted the Scotties when I was living there, and Scotties was a good time too. So that was a fun time. Huss, what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, buddy?
Well, what is coming up? My old buddy Dale Weiss is back from Europe, and I know he's going to have some takes on what we saw between the Jets and Habs earlier this week. We'll talk to him about his year in Europe and future, and probably a little bit more on Mark Scheifele being public enemy #1 in Montreal, Quebec, and to the Habs Nation. Kenny Weeb's going to join us. We'll tee up this huge game tonight between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. And we have basically banned Major League Baseball chat and discussion from the show. These idiots can't get it together. They almost deserve what they're getting right now. But Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's going to come on. We will go to the wise Hacksaw for his thoughts on where things are at. Talk a little bit about that, some of the other big stories in the world of sports, and then do a little marble race at the end, give away some prizes, and have a heck of a lot of fun. It should be a great way to go into this huge game tonight for the Jets. By the way, just a quick tease, because we will, as we get into the summer, be spending some more time getting into the wide world of wagering, which are some of the more non-traditional things. Talking to the guys yesterday, the disc golf season is back, so we will have some disc golf picks for sure going forward. But I dove into the Premier League for an additional wager today. I figured we couldn't just have hockey and just have curling today. So how about this one? Bonus pick, Newcastle United and Brighton Hove Albion, a draw at plus 217 on the three-way line. I'll be honest, I don't know much about these teams. They're not very good when it comes to the Premiership. But I'm looking at their records, and one is 5-10-10. The other is 7-12-7. These two teams have 22 draws between them. So just playing a trend, liking the number, we're going to go plus 217. Already have a sprinkle in on that. So if you just want to have some sort of action from a very casual fan of the Premiership, you can follow me on that one. Plus 217, Newcastle United, Brighton Hove Albion draw in tomorrow's Premier League action.
Now I got a reason to follow Premier. I just put 30 on it. It pays $94.50 if you win. So we're locked in there as well. Winnipeg Sports Talk. You can find Huss today over on YouTube. Also subscribe to that podcast as well. And while you're there, if you have not yet subscribed to the Lock Shop, make sure you do. Tell your friends about it. Not a lot of sports betting podcasts in Canada. I'm sure at one point there will be, but we kind of got ahead of it here a little bit. So we'll have another episode for you on Tuesday. More golf, more hockey to talk about, and eventually we'll get back to football as well. But between then, we'll have a lot of different things to bet on. As Huss mentioned, man, you can literally go and bet on anything at CoolBet. So visit them at coolbet.com. Huss, have a great weekend, buddy. Maybe I'll see you perusing Crack Pack at some point this weekend, and that'll be fun too.
I was just about to say, I wanted to get a line on how many packs of hockey cards will the hands of one Dustin Nielsen open before next Tuesday's Lock Shop. I'll take the over, whatever the number is.
I was going to say, the number is probably about 160, 170. I'd take the over, Huss. It'll be a good time. All right, man, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, dude.